Thousands of British expats face being booted out of Spain for failing to register for residency under post-Brexit regulations. Spanish police and immigration officials expect to deport around 500 UK citizens within weeks, with targets already earmarked to be picked up and sent home for not having the correct paperwork to remain. Authorities have previously turned a blind eye to Brits not legally registered in Spain, but under Brexit rules they have to be out of the country by March 31, when they will be deemed as illegal immigrants as their 90-day legal stay comes to an end. A small exodus began last week as expats, including some whose applications for residency have been rejected, started to head back to Britain to beat Wednesday's deadline. Anthony Cook, who has lived in Spain for 7 years, told Global 247 News, "The Spanish dream is over for me, it's time to go back to Cardiff. It's been a blast, but the new regulations have made it impossible to stay, the freedom of movement has gone and I don't want to end up getting deported and fined." Fellow returning expat Sean Cromber voted leave but said he did not believe Brexit would end his Spanish lifestyle. He said, "Yes, I voted out, but I didn't realize it would come to this. My application has been rejected and we are on our way home. My wife is in tears, she's distraught if I'm honest, and I'm not too happy at the prospect of returning back to the UK. I've loved living on the Costa del Sol and after 5 years can't believe it has come to this. We applied but got rejected and so have no choice, although long term I think the Spanish will regret chucking us out of Spain." This blog is no longer live, follow here for the latest updates. 6:28 a.m. update. Brexiteer Redwood lashes out at EU's threats over export threat, obey your own treaties. The EU's threat to impose a COVID vaccine export ban on Britain has been savaged by a leading Brexiteer. On Thursday, EU leaders agreed in principle to tougher vaccine export controls. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen told AstraZeneca, which makes the Oxford jab, it must catch up with EU deliveries before exporting. However, the bloc stopped short of the outright vaccine ban which many had feared. Conservative MP and prominent Brexit supporter John Redwood hit back at Brussels on Twitter. He tweeted, "The EU summit sent out threats as member states argued over export bans and allocation of vaccine. It seems the EU does not feel the need to obey its own treaties over free trade and good relations with neighboring states and companies." 5 a.m. update. Peter Shilton's Brexit clash with Gary Lineker sparked furious BBC bias row. Peter Shilton's Brexit row with former teammate Gary Lineker sparked a furious response from fellow BBC colleagues after the Match of the Day host condemned the UK's exit from the EU. The goalkeeper is set to appear on BBC quiz show Pointless Celebrities tonight, alongside fellow former professional footballers Paul Parker, John Hartson and Rachel Brown-Finnis. Shilton, who remains England men's most capped footballer, is a passionate Brexiteer, and has talked at length on the abuse he received following the referendum result. He has spoken about how he wanted the UK to take back control, which has earned him scorn from people who backed the Remain campaign. 3:58 a.m. update. EU have been storing vaccines. Claire Fox slams EU high level of vaccine skepticism. Claire Fox hits out the EU have been storing vaccines and not giving it to their own people. Bloc has caused high level of vaccine skepticism. Claire Fox delivered a scathing undressing of the European Union on Question Time last night as she branded the bloc been storing vaccines, as millions lie in fridges across the bloc. She added their behavior has led to a high level of vaccine skepticism. The former MEP went on to claim how EU leaders have ramped up tensions over the vaccine chaos. She then fired off a stinging shot at Ursula von der Leyen for being irresponsible in the extreme for the vaccine chaos that has engulfed the bloc throughout the rollout of the vaccination program. 2:19 a.m. update. Merkel seeking to capitalize on Brexit as London's crumbs could become Frankfurt's pie. Angela Merkel is seeking to capitalize on Brexit as London's crumbs could become Frankfurt's pie, a Deutsche Bank report claimed. Brexit negotiations with the EU started up again in mid-January, with talks on financial services. After months of wrangling, new rules for trade were finally agreed on Christmas Eve, but in a document spanning over 1,200 pages, there was very little mention of financial services, a sector which accounts for 7% of the UK's economy and 10% of its tax receipts. The two sides hope there will be a memorandum of understanding in place by the end of March. 12:10 a.m. update. Brexit, UK lost significant access to EU policing data under deal, report warns. Britain has lost significant access to EU policing data under the Brexit deal negotiated at the end of last year, a House of Lords report has said. It also concluded that post-Brexit law enforcement arrangements are complex and untested, according to the BBC. And peers warned it would take much longer for vital data to be passed to frontline police officers. A government spokesman said the UK continues to be one of the safest countries in the world. 10:55 p.m. update. EU shocked at how rapidly UK has signed trade deals, vaccine war as revenge. The European Union has been shocked at the rapid progress Britain has made in signing trade deals around the world and is still feeling humiliated that the UK left the bloc, a senior minister has told the Sunday Express. The senior minister suggested that a combination of the anguish over Brexit and the proximity of elections in the bloc's two biggest members, France and Germany, is behind the vaccine war with the UK. The minister, who deals with counterparts in the EU each week, said it was a personal view, not a government one, but had been reflected in the conversations he has had with European politicians. The minister said, "I think a lot of this is driven by the electoral cycle in the EU." 8:48 p.m. update. Brexiteer accuses Brussels of politically motivated attacks on vaccine maker. Brexiteer Andrew Bridgen has accused the EU of launching a politically motivated attack against COVID-19 vaccine maker AstraZeneca to deflect criticisms of its shambolic rollout. The Tory MP said Brussels' attempts to scapegoat the Anglo-Swedish pharma giant had backfired and would result in fewer doses reaching member states as Europe is engulfed by a third wave of coronavirus infections. Writing on the Pavlovich Today website, he said, "The fact that AstraZeneca, alongside the UK, has become the political scapegoat for the EU's failure to successfully procure and roll out a sufficient volume of vaccines for its 500 million citizens compared to the US and the UK, is not in dispute." The world had witnessed the EU carry out a coordinated, relentless, politically motivated attack on AstraZeneca, casting doubt on its commercial ethics by claiming it was reneging on its contract, which was proved untrue when those contracts were made public. 7:22 p.m. update. Remainer warns against instinctive desire to defend EU. Former Tory Justice Secretary David Gauke has urged Remainers to be wary of their instinctive desire to side with the European Union in the vaccine row. Mr. Gauke, a Remainer who stood as an independent candidate at the last general election, said Brexit critics should be wary of blindly defending Brussels over its chaotic rollout. Writing on the Conservative Home website he said, "I'm a convinced Remainer, but believe nonetheless that the EU has mishandled its vaccine policy." For some on the Remain side of the Brexit debate, there is an instinctive desire to defend the EU and cast the UK as vaccine nationalists or selfish panic buyers and AstraZeneca as contract breakers, arbitrarily favoring one customer over another. It is, however, an unconvincing case. In contrast, had the EU proceeded to block vaccine exports to the UK, its behavior would have been indefensible. If one believes in open markets, removing trade barriers, building up trust between trading partners and honoring contractual obligations, one should be prepared to be critical of EU behavior contrary to those values, regardless of where one stood on the subject of Brexit. I am sure many Leave voters who share these values must, from time to time, hold similar views about some of the actions taken by the UK government. 5:31 p.m. update. Brexit delivery puts Tories in best place to help Welsh recovery. Welsh Conservative leader Andrew Davies said delivering Brexit has made his party best placed to build a coronavirus recovery plan for Wales. He told the Tories Spring Forum, "There is a party that can be trusted to deliver change and deliver on its promises." We delivered Brexit, and now we'll get us on the road to recovery and build a better Wales. Mr. Davies also said the Conservatives will create 65,000 new jobs by 2026 by encouraging economic growth and working with industry, as well as recruit 1,200 more doctors and 3,000 extra nurses. 4:22 p.m. Update. Brexiteer calls on Brussels to cooperate with UK on vaccines. Brexiteer Sir John Redwood has torn into the EU over the vaccine row with the UK and told Brussels to cooperate with companies to try and defeat the coronavirus pandemic. The EU pulled back from its threat to impose a ban on vaccine exports to the UK, but despite that, Sir John ordered Brussels to concentrate on vaccine production rather than continue the bitter row over supplies. Amid the EU's vaccine rollout failure, Sir John called for the bloc to work with pharmaceutical companies to increase the production of vaccine doses. Sir John said, the EU should spend less time arguing over how to share out the vaccines we can make and more time ensuring more vaccines are made. That means co-operating with great companies who are getting on with the task of increasing production. 1:20 p.m. Update. Suez Canal's blockage major economic shock for Europe and last thing it needs. The Suez Canal's blockage constitutes a major macroeconomic shock for Europe and it is the last thing the bloc needs, a political commentator has claimed. One of the world's largest container ships, the Ever Given, has been wedged across the Suez Canal since it was blown off course by high winds in the early hours of March 23, blocking one of the busiest maritime trade corridors in the world. The Japanese owner of the ship apologized and claimed dislodging the ship is proving extremely difficult. Marine and salvage engineers failed in their latest attempt yesterday and according to the latest reports, it might take until at least Wednesday. While many in Europe are underestimating the accident, the head of Oxford-based think tank Euro Intelligence Wolfgang Munchau claimed it actually constitutes a major macroeconomic shock for Europe. He wrote, Germany reminded us that 9% of its exports go through the Suez Canal and a much bigger proportion of its chemical trade. As we saw at the beginning of the pandemic, industrial supply chains are sensitive, even to small disturbances in transportation infrastructure. And this is a big disturbance. 12:36 p.m. Update. People are angry. Czechoslovak movement surges as EU seen like Soviets breaking hard promises. Brussels' relentless failures are sparking a new wave of Euroscepticism in the Czech Republic, with younger generations now calling for the country to leave the bloc. A new group led by young anti-EU campaigners has been lambasting Brussels in the past year as a result of the bloc's unforgivable mistakes in its handling of the coronavirus pandemic. The leader of the Ochod Czechoslovak movement, Mate Gregor, is only 18 years old but already he feels the country has been betrayed by the false promises made by the European Union 17 years ago. Mr. Gregor, joined by many others of his generation across the Czech Republic, told Express. Co.uk Czech people are angry and demand for the EU state to be freed by Brussels' shackles is growing. He explained the movement, which he insists is not a political party and does not intend to become one for now, aims at intensifying an informative campaign in the Czech Republic about the true nature of the European Union and its benefits, or lack thereof. 11:41 a.m. Update. That's why we left. Convinced Remainer Gauke savages EU on indefensible vaccine threat. The EU's threat to block vaccine exports to the UK has now been described as indefensible by Remainer, David Gauke. The former Justice Secretary and Tory MP who described himself as a convinced Remainer, claimed even the instinctive desire to protect the EU over the vaccine row fails. With the EU's vaccine program failing, Mr. Gauke criticized the bloc for its threat to the UK while also tearing apart the argument that Britain is imposing its own vaccine export bloc. In a brilliant explanation of the EU's failures over its vaccine program, Mr. Gauke claimed there is confusion within Brussels over what the UK is allowed under its contract with AstraZeneca and what is produced. 11:06 a.m. Update. Brussels on alert as momentum surges for Eurexit. Groups from 6 EU countries unite. An anti-EU movement is growing across the bloc with members from 6 different EU states now signing to a joint manifesto to abandon Brussels. The Eurexit movement launched in January thanks to cross-border Eurosceptics from Italy, France and Spain, with the help of the Brexit Party from the UK. The movement is now growing, with members from the Czech Republic, Ireland and Bulgaria joining the team, as announced on the group's Twitter account on Thursday. They wrote, "We welcome the Irish Freedom Party, Ochad movement and Bulgaria not Truda I Razuma to the #Eurexit movement. Our manifesto is now available in Czech and Bulgarian." 10:48 a.m. update, Boris Johnson and the Queen to hold post-Brexit investment summit. The Queen and Boris Johnson will host a world summit to encourage investment into green technologies as the UK attempts to become a global leader in renewable industries. Taking place in October, the Prime Minister and members of the royal family host a summit to galvanize investment into the UK's green future. The Global Investment Summit will come ahead of the COP26 event in November. International Trade Secretary Liz Truss welcomed the summit as part of a shift to move to clean economic growth. She said, "The UK was one of the first governments in the world to set a net zero target by 2050 and we are still leading the global shift to clean economic growth." From wind turbines in Scotland to hydrogen development in Wales, the Global Investment Summit will be a fantastic opportunity to secure investment deals into the best of British green industry, allowing us to build back better, stronger and greener. 9:34 a.m. update, EU and UK close to striking vaccine deal. The UK and EU are close to an agreement which will end the bitter row of vaccine exports leaving the bloc. After negotiations throughout the week led by former ambassador to the EU, Sir Tim Barrow, The Times reports an agreement could be reached this weekend. A source said, "For us it was very significant that Johnson did not use frost but instead went through the Foreign Office. It showed that he was really serious about finding a compromise and trying to build trust." 9 a.m. update, EU blasted for blame games and smear campaign. In Vaccine Row, the EU has been slammed for using blame games, empty threats and a smear campaign to distract from the bloc's calamitous vaccine rollout. Brussels bureaucrats have repeatedly threatened to block vaccine exports to countries including the UK because it has the audacity to succeed where it had failed. Many of the bloc's countries, including France and Germany, also temporarily suspended the AstraZeneca jab over baseless concerns it could cause blood clots. The veteran Eurosceptics' views were backed by Wolfgang Munchau, an expert commentator on the EU. The director of specialist EU news service Euro-Intelligence wrote, "There are many ways of not solving the problem. EU goes through them one by one, blame games, empty threats, smear campaign, who gets what discussions. How about just focusing on the problem itself?" 8:15 a.m. update, Get over it, Joe. Woke Biden told to drop Irish history obsession after swipe at Brits. Joe Biden needs to focus on the job in hand, specifically thrashing out a trade deal with the UK, rather than obsessing about Irish history, former Brexit Party MEP Rupert Lowe has said. But the Brexiteer also suggested Britain was well equipped to thrive even if an agreement is not forthcoming. The U.S. president, whose great-grandfather emigrated from Ireland to the United States in the 19th century at the height of the Irish potato famine, has made no secret of his concerns about the impact he fears Brexit could have on 1998's Good Friday Agreement, the landmark deal credited with bringing peace to the North. Mr. Lowe told Express.co.uk, "For me, when we have so much to concern ourselves with regards to China, Russia and other countries as our liberal democracies are under threat, I think it's sad that Joe Biden isn't using his leadership of the free world to promulgate the sort of Anglo-Saxon ethics of the individual." 7:48 a.m. update, Brexiteer calls on EU to work with companies to increase production. Amid the row over vaccine supplies, Brexiteer and MP for Wokingham Sir John Redwood, ordered Brussels to be more cooperative rather than arguing over exports. He said in a tweet, "The EU should spend less time arguing over how to share out the vaccines we can make and more time ensuring more vaccines are made." That means co-operating with great companies who are getting on with the task of increasing production. EU leaders pulled back from imposing a ban on vaccine exports, leaving the bloc following internal pressure from Germany, the Netherlands and Sweden at an EU summit on Thursday. However, EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen insisted AstraZeneca must step up efforts to supply the EU with vaccine supplies.